There are going to be times when you are sick to the back teeth of looking at sheet music and trying to figure it out, and you're going to want to just sit down at the piano and play something figured out by ear. And so you should. It's a really good skill to have, and it's going to help you deepen your knowledge of music theory and your overall musicality. So I am all for playing stuff by ear. So I thought today I'd just show you how you might go about figuring out a melody and some accompaniment by ear. So I'm going to look at a couple of fairly well-known tunes. I know it's a bit early in the year. Well, we're coming into November. It's a bit early for Silent Night, but that's one that everybody knows, so I thought that might be a nice one to start with. And we might have a look at something else. How about Let It Be by the Beatles? That's also a fairly well-known one. Okay, so oftentimes when people start to try and figure something out by ear, they start by looking for the first note. But actually I'm going to turn that on its head and say really what you should be looking for is the last note. Because the last note of any piece of music, 99% of the time, the last note is the home note. So it's your key note. It tells you what key you're in. And you can work backwards from there. So it's a good idea to, this is if you're trying to work out a piece faithfully to how you hear it on a particular recording, or a particular song that's in the charts at the moment that you want to play it in the same key that it's been written in. Otherwise, you can choose your key. I mean, if you're just new to figuring stuff out by ear, you might decide I'm going to do everything in the key of C because that's an easy enough key signature to manage. But if you were listening to a piece of music and you wanted to match the key that it's in, or you were preparing a piece of music for people to sing with, and it might not work in the key of C because it might be too high for people to sing or too low or whatever it is, so you may need to figure it out in other keys as well. But let's assume that we're in the key of C here, and I'm just going to play the last line of Silent Night and just confirm that the home note, might be C if we're working it out in that. Okay, so let's say that I sang that and I figured out that this was my last note, my home note. So we're in the key of C. If I was playing it, if I was listening to it somewhere else and I was singing it from... If somebody was singing it and I heard it lower down, this might be the key note. So that might be in the key of F then. So why is that important? Well, if we know the key note, if we know what key it's in, then we can easily find the first note, because the first note is going to belong to the home chord. So if we're in the key of C, for example, C is going to be our chord. So our first note is highly likely, not 100% of the time, but highly likely to be one of these notes. And I'm sure you can already hear the first note of Silent Night in that. There it is. Okay, so that is a note belonging to the chord of C. Most of the time, that's where you'll find your start note. One of these three notes. So once you've got your start note, you're just actually going to work it out. One piece of advice I can give is that notes tend to be closer to each other than you think. There will be big jumps here and there in a piece of music, but most music moves by step or by skip, so you can rely on that when you're looking for the next note. Don't go looking too far afield. It's probably quite close by. Okay, so that sounds like the beginning of Silent Night. Well, that doesn't sound right. Let's try a little further afield. There we go. So it's trial and error. And we know that repeats. Now we know we have a much higher note here. We know we're going to be jumping up somewhere. So I know that the note is up here somewhere. Oh, I actually landed that quite by accident. That sounds right. But if you were looking for a note, for example, and you needed to find it, then it's just a question of singing the note. I'm going to sing a random note and find it. La, there's my note. So that's one thing you could do, and I would practice that, just sort of singing random notes. La, there it is. La. And just, it's not so much that you necessarily get to be really good at finding the note very quickly, but actually, more importantly, in the early stages, it breaks down your fear of not being able to find a note immediately. Why should you? It is a process, so don't worry about, oh gosh, it's up here somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Just get used to being able to match your voice to a note, just as we were doing there. Okay, so by that process, we found this note quite by accident, but we know that that's the next note. So now we're just working out where to go next. And we're going up. Are we skipping down? Is it 2 skips? Not quite. 1 more. Okay. And as we're going, as we're working out, be mindful of little patterns that emerge. So for example, we're skipping down, stepping up, and then it's not another skip down, it's a fourth. So we have a third and then a fourth. So that's going to help you remember how the tune goes. And then where are we? Yeah. Step down, stepping up, and where to next? It feels to me like it's going to be more than just a step. It's a skip. That repeats. Notice where we have things that repeat. And now we're going back up to that higher note again. And from there we know we're going higher again. Skipping up. Or you might need to work on finding that. Stepping down. Where are we going? We're jumping back up. Are we going back to the same note? No, not quite. To the E this time. Just a skip up. And how are we moving down? So it feels like it's going to be more than a step. It's actually a fourth. So we have a fourth and a third, which is the opposite of our third and a fourth there. And now we're coming into our final phrase. Stepping down. Whoops. So there's a nice little pattern. We're in our 5-finger position, but we're just not playing the middle note. Now, as you're working this out, feel free to make notes as you go along. Write down the names and notes, save you some trouble later on. But once you've got it worked out and you're kind of playing through it, turn your attention to the feel of the meter. So are we in 3 time? Are we in 4 time? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that's going to be where your strong notes fall. So 1, 2, and 3, strong note, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we've worked out that Silent Night is in 3 time, and that's important because we want to add some harmony in the left hand, and the way we're going to do that is by adding a chord on each of those strong beats. It's the simplest harmony that we can add. So because we're in the key of C, and we know already that certain notes are going to be more important than other notes for providing harmony, and usually it's 1, 4, and 5. So in the scale of C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1 is important. 5 is very important as well. And the third note, the degree of the scale that's important, is our fourth. So the likelihood is that our harmony can be built entirely on the chords that are based on those 3 notes. So C major, F major, and G major. And the way we work out what chord goes with what is by figuring out which chord contains the note that we're playing on each strong beat. So for example, if we're starting off on G, so G belongs to the chord of C. Now it also belongs to the chord of G, but particularly when we're beginning a melody, the first chord is going to be the home note. It's going to establish the key. Very likely that the next chord is actually going to be the 5. That happens quite frequently. Let's see if it happens here as well. But G belongs in that home chord, so that's where we're going to start with. 2, 3. The E also belongs to that chord, so we can stay there. Now, the next note is D, so we want a chord that contains D, and yes, in fact, our G chord does contain D. Now, I'm not going to move up and down. I'm going to rearrange that chord. G, B, D, G, D, B. Okay, so I can go from the C major to the G. Now you can decide whether you want to repeat that chord there. And now we're going to C, so let's go back to a C chord. That works so far. Now, going to our next note is an A. So our 4th degree of the scale, our chord that's built on the 4th degree of the scale, F, contains A, so that's going to work there. and it contains the C as well, so that's fine. Going to the G. Now, the G is contained in C and G, obviously. I just had a go at that. That is a C chord, rearranged. That sounds right. If you want, you can try out the G as well. So G, B, and D. Nope, that doesn't sound right. So it is going to be the C chord. Back to our F. C chord. And now we're back up here to our D. So that's going to be our G chord. There's no question there. Now you might wonder, in this instance, there's an F in the right hand, but I'm still playing my G chord in the left hand. You could play an F chord, but actually the G chord sounds better. And that is because our chord of G7 also contains the F, so that's why that works absolutely fine there. It becomes a G7. The seventh note is in the right hand. And that's a C, so we're going back to our C chord. Here we're coming towards the end, so we need a change there. So this is G is going to be the G chord, the 5, because pieces often end on a 5-1 chord progression. So that's how you'd work out the harmony for Silent Night. Now once you've got that down and you've got a good idea of it, you might decide to jazz up the left hand a bit and just make it more interesting. So you might decide to go... or something. You might decide to just play octaves. Keep it simple. And that might be a good way to start off if you want to keep things kind of simple. Okay, so now let's take the same process and apply it to Let It Be. And let's assume that we want to play this in the key of C as well. So we know that it's going to end... So C is our home note. So we want to decide, well, what's our starting note going to be? Let's play our opening chord, or our home chord. Oh, I can hear it already. There it is. So we're starting on the 5th degree. So we've got a verse and a chorus. But then we have the Let It Be part, the chorus part. So that begins on the 3rd degree of the scale, the middle note of our chord. So that already that helps us. We've got 2 landmark notes there. We know that our verse is going to start on the 5th degree of the scale and the chorus is going to start on the 3rd degree of the scale. Now it might take you a little while to work that out if you're figuring out another song. But these are things to make note of because it's going to help you remember how it goes. So you're going to go through the same process of just figuring out what the notes are. And noticing maybe what intervals are you coming across. There's a 4th there, and we're going higher than that. Higher again. Let It Be. We've got figured out before that starts with the E. And we know there's a little riff in that goes with that. Make note of things like that as we go along, see if we can work them out. So that we know that happens twice. So then we're into the chorus. We already figured out that starts on the E. Now it's going up from there, isn't it? There it is. Below this it sounds like we're going down. There it is. No. No. Back to the E. Okay, Okay, so once you've kind of figured out what your melody is, and feel free to write down the notes or just play it lots and lots until you've gotten the hang of it. Then you want to, again, go back and figure out what am I counting here. So where are my strong beats that I'm going to put my chords. There's my first strong beat. So we've got an upbeat in this one. That's not a full bar there. So 4 and 1, 2. 1, 2, 2, 1, 2. It feels like 2 time to me. 1, 2, 1, 2. Could be 4, 4 though. Notice I'm kind of simplifying the rhythm as I play it, so just to get the meter, but I'm getting an idea of where I'm going to place my chords. There's a strong beat. So I'm getting a rough idea. Now one thing I can do in the left hand is just, instead of playing chords, I can simplify it again by just playing the name of the chord. So instead of playing a C chord, I might just play a C. In this piece we need an extra chord actually. So because we're in the key of C, we're going to have our 1 chord, we're going to have our 4 chord and our 5 chord, but we're also going to have a 6 chord, which is a minor chord. And Let It Be has that lovely minor feel in places. So let's see if we can figure it out. Now, as we said, we're pretty much always going to start off with a 1 chord followed by a 5 chord. So that's going to be a C going to G. There's our C. Let's try the G. Let's go down lower to the G here. That works. Now, are we going back? We've got an E here, so would we go back to the C? Because that C chord has an E in it. No, that doesn't feel right. But our other chord, our minor chord, A minor, that has an E in it as well. Now, this is a D falling on a strong beat. Would that be a G? G chord contains D, but that doesn't work. Because we're only using 4 chords though, there's only one other chord that it could be, even though it doesn't contain the note. That's our F chord. We haven't used that F yet, that chord yet. So, as we said, usually the note is contained in the chord you want. The chord that you want in the left hand, it contains the note that you're playing in the right hand. Most of the time, but sometimes this is a good case where it doesn't. Possibly we could consider the D a kind of a passing note. It's on its way to C, and the F chord does contain the C, so maybe that's why it works there, although it's falling on a strong beat. We can just consider it chromatic, a colourful chord, add some colour to it. Back to E, so that's either going to be in C or A. C is better. Back to the G. So that, again, that G chord I'm playing with the E, it works best, but it's passing note, we're going to the D. So if you're trying to work out a chord in the left hand, it's not working, think of maybe the note, maybe just a passing note, and look at what note is coming next, and that chord might work better. Now we've got our little riff that we said we could use with this one. And again, working out what notes are in that riff is really just a question of singing it to yourself and then trying to figure it out. We're just stepping down here though. So let's go back and put our full chords in for that. G. So notice I'm not moving around to play full chords, I'm inverting them, which means I'm rearranging the chords so that they have the same notes obviously, but I'm just playing them in ways that are fit easier under the hand. So C going to G, instead of C going up here to G, I'm going C, and I'm just using the B and D here with the G here. So if I G, B, D, same chord, but easier to go from the C to the G. And then we can take that quite easily to the A minor, just moving down. And A minor can easily become F major just by swapping the E for an F. Okay, so if I'm moving between them, I can go here for the A minor. so I have some options without jumping up and down around the keyboard. So of course a shortcut you can take to figure out the chords in a particular song is to go online and actually just Google the song, or go to Ultimate Guitar, which is a great resource. Every song you can imagine is on that with the chords, obviously not with the melody because it's for guitar players. So it just has the chords, but if you were to print out a song that you were looking for, you could easily, figure out the notes in the particular key and write them in. So then you have a full description of the song. Another thing I would highly recommend doing is moving, your songs around the piano. So if you want to get really good at this kind of thing and really train your ear, take some very simple melodies. Take Mary Had a Little Lamb, take Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, Happy Birthday, things like that, and play them in different places. So play them with different home notes. So for example, if we were to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, let's start in the key of C. Then move around the circle of fifths, so then the next place to play it would be on G. And figuring out your accompaniment in the left hand as you go. Then D would be next. Let's go here. Got a black note to think about there. A would be next. Oops, so we've got an F sharp in that one to think about. Etc. Moving around, and as you figure out the accompaniment with it, the harmony that goes with it, you'll start to get a really good feel for the important chords in each key. So the most important chords being 1, 4, 5 and the 6, which is a minor chord. That pretty much covers everything. So that's a very good way to get familiar with them. Take very simple tunes to begin with. So I hope you have some fun doing that. Let me know in the comments if you get stuck with anything, if there's a particular song you're trying to work out that isn't quite working for you, if you want any further explanation, anything else I can help. I hope this was reasonably clear for you to follow. But it's something quite basic in music, so to come away from the sheet music now and again and really just work it out yourself. It's fantastic training, and it'll help you to become much more comfortable on the keyboard. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you're not already a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. I'd love to have you aboard, and till I see you again, happy practicing.